The day I bought the little fixer-upper, my mother stared at the peeling paint, the crooked porch, and the patchy lawn like I had just announced I was investing my life savings in a haunted toaster. "You're serious?" she asked. "Very." My father shook his head. "Your sister owns a 6-bedroom mansion with a fountain. You bought a house that looks like it lost a fight with a tornado." That pretty much set the tone for the next 2 years. Every family gathering became an opportunity to compare me with my younger sister. She lived in a massive luxury mansion on the best street in the county. The place had marble floors, imported lighting, a theater room, and a kitchen so large you could probably land a small aircraft inside it. And she never stopped talking about it. Whenever someone visited, she somehow managed to redirect every conversation back to her mansion. "Did I tell you about the new wine cellar? Have you seen the infinity pool yet? The landscaping alone costs more than most houses." Then she'd glance at me and smile. "How's the little shack doing?" Everyone laughed. I laughed too, mostly because crying seemed dramatic. The truth was that I loved my little house. Sure, it leaned slightly to one side. Sure, some of the floorboards squeaked like frightened mice. And yes, one bathroom had wallpaper old enough to qualify for retirement benefits. But it was mine. Every weekend I repaired something. I replaced boards. I painted walls. I rebuilt cabinets. Little by little the place improved. Meanwhile my sister spent money faster than I spent trips to the hardware store. One Saturday afternoon, while I was struggling to install a new fence post, I noticed a woman standing across the street watching me. She was beautiful. Tall, graceful, and carrying herself with unusual confidence. She walked over and pointed at the crooked fence section. "Human construction appears unnecessarily difficult." I blinked. "Human?" She smiled. "I'm from the Interspecies Exchange Program." That explained absolutely nothing and somehow explained everything. Earth had welcomed several alien cultures during the past decade. Seeing one wasn't unusual anymore. Meeting one while covered in dirt and arguing with a fence post felt considerably less glamorous. She introduced herself and asked what I was doing. "Trying to save money." She examined the tools scattered around the yard. "Interesting strategy." The conversation lasted nearly an hour. Unlike most people, she wasn't impressed by luxury homes or expensive possessions. Instead, she seemed fascinated by the fact that I was rebuilding everything myself. Over the following weeks, she kept stopping by. Sometimes she brought coffee. Sometimes she brought lunch. Once she brought a handheld alien device that analyzed structural weaknesses in my porch. The machine completed in 6 seconds what would have taken me 2 days. I immediately asked where I could buy one. She informed me the technology was restricted because humans would probably use it for ridiculous reasons. She was probably right. As we spent more time together, the house slowly transformed. The front porch looked better. The yard improved. The fence finally stood upright. For the first time, neighbors began complimenting the property instead of expressing concern for public safety. Then came my sister's annual summer mansion party. The event was less of a gathering and more of an exhibition dedicated to reminding everyone how wealthy she was. Guests wandered through enormous rooms while she proudly explained the cost of everything. My parents treated the place like a royal palace. When I arrived, she immediately spotted me. "Hey everybody," she announced loudly. "My brother came all the way from his renovation project." A few relatives laughed. She wasn't finished. "How many years has it been now? 3? 4? At this rate the house might be finished before retirement." More laughter. Then she noticed my alien girlfriend standing beside me. Her eyes widened. "Oh wow. You actually found someone willing to help renovate that place." My parents chuckled. My sister grinned. "What does she see in you?" Before I could answer, my girlfriend smiled warmly. "He builds things instead of showing them off." The room became surprisingly quiet. For a moment, nobody knew what to say. Then my sister laughed and returned to showing guests her latest luxury upgrades. But as I watched everyone admire the mansion, I noticed something. For the first time, Her bragging sounded forced. And for the first time, I didn't care. Because while everyone else admired expensive marble floors and giant chandeliers, someone was standing beside me who genuinely appreciated the life I was building one board at a time. The months that followed were some of the happiest of my life. Every Saturday morning, my girlfriend would arrive carrying coffee and enough enthusiasm to make me suspicious she was secretly powered by a fusion reactor. We tackled one project after another. The old kitchen cabinets came first. I spent 3 days measuring, cutting, sanding, and assembling replacements. Then she casually pointed a small alien scanner at one crooked cabinet door. The device emitted a soft blue light. A second later the door aligned perfectly. I stared at it. "You could have done that 3 days ago?" "Yes." "And you waited?" "You seemed emotionally invested in the struggle." I wasn't sure if she was joking. With her help, the house improved faster than ever. The roof no longer leaked. The porch finally stood level. The backyard transformed from an overgrown jungle into an actual yard. Neighbors who once crossed the street to avoid looking at the property now stopped to compliment it. One elderly man even asked whether I was planning to sell. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped a hammer. Meanwhile, my sister continued living inside what she apparently believed was a royal palace. Every family gathering featured a fresh presentation about her latest purchase. New luxury furniture. New imported stone. New landscaping. New entertainment systems. The list never ended. My parents treated every announcement like breaking world news. One Sunday dinner she spent 20 minutes discussing a custom chandelier. 20 minutes. A chandelier? At one point she actually showed everyone professional photographs of it. Then she looked at me. "What exciting improvements did you make this month?" The tone alone told everyone she wasn't asking a real question. I smiled. "Fixed the drainage system." She laughed. My parents laughed. Even a few relatives laughed. My girlfriend took a bite of dessert and shrugged. "Proper drainage prevents structural damage." Nobody knew how to respond to that. The conversation died immediately. I nearly choked trying not to laugh. As the months passed, I focused on practical improvements. Because I handled every renovation legally, I kept detailed records. Every receipt went into a folder. Every permit was documented. Every inspection report was saved. The paperwork wasn't exciting, but it mattered. One evening while reviewing renovation expenses, I discovered several local incentive programs. Energy-efficient windows qualified. Roof improvements qualified. Water conservation upgrades qualified. Even portions of my restoration work qualified. The potential savings were significant. I submitted applications, completed forms, filed documentation, and moved on with my life. When I mentioned it during a family barbecue, my sister nearly rolled her eyes out of her head. "Who spends time worrying about tax paperwork? Responsible homeowners?" She laughed. "That's what accountants are for." My girlfriend quietly sipped her drink. After my sister walked away, she leaned closer. "In my home system, overconfidence is considered a developmental disorder." I laughed so hard soda nearly came out of my nose. The irony was that despite all her wealth, my sister paid almost no attention to the financial side of her mansion. She knew exactly how much every luxury feature cost. She knew the names of designers. She knew which imported marble came from which country. But paperwork? Taxes? Property assessments? Those topics bored her instantly. So she ignored them. Life continued peacefully. The house kept improving. My relationship grew stronger. For the first time in years, I felt genuinely content. Then strange rumors started circulating around town. County offices were conducting record reviews. Property assessments were being updated. Historical filings were being audited. Most homeowners barely noticed. I certainly didn't. Neither did my parents. My sister paid even less attention. After all, she was busy planning another extravagant mansion party. She spent thousands preparing the event. Caterers, decorations, entertainment, luxury rentals. Everything had to be perfect. As she proudly showed off her preparations on social media, my girlfriend glanced at the posts and shook her head. Humans really enjoy tempting fate. What do you mean? She smiled. In every civilization, the universe eventually sends an invoice. At the time, I thought she was making a joke. A few weeks later, I would discover she was far more accurate than she realized. The county knocked on a Tuesday morning. Ironically, my sister was hosting another gathering at the mansion when it happened. Not a huge party this time. Just a small audience of relatives, friends, and unfortunate victims who had been trapped listening to her explain the advantages of imported stone countertops. I happened to be there because my mother insisted. Family support is important, she said. Which was interesting, considering most of the support usually traveled in only one direction. My girlfriend came with me. Mostly because she found human family drama entertaining. As we arrived, my sister was already giving a guided tour. Again. She spoke about the mansion the way historians spoke about ancient wonders. The marble floors. The luxury lighting. The custom wine room. The designer furniture. The absurdly expensive landscaping. Everything received a detailed explanation. Then the doorbell rang. Nobody thought much about it. My sister smiled confidently. Probably another delivery. She opened the front door. 3 county officials stood outside holding folders. Their expressions were remarkably serious. The smile disappeared from her face. A few minutes later, everyone was sitting in the living room listening to explanations nobody fully understood. Apparently, the county had completed a major review of property assessments. Years earlier, a clerical mistake had caused the mansion's tax value to be calculated incorrectly. Nobody had caught the error. Not the county. Not the accountants. Not my sister. Not anyone. Until now. The lead assessor calmly explained the situation. Then he handed over the paperwork. My sister looked at the numbers. Her face turned white. Actually white. For a moment I thought she might faint directly onto her imported flooring. My father grabbed the papers. His expression immediately matched hers. My mother gasped. The room exploded into confusion. Questions flew everywhere. That can't be right. There must be a mistake. How does this happen? Can you recalculate it? The county officials remained impressively calm. They had probably witnessed this reaction before. The answer never changed. The assessment was valid. The taxes were owed. Payment arrangements could be discussed. But the bill was real. Very real. The amount exceeded the price of a luxury sports car. Years of underpaid taxes had accumulated into a financial nightmare. My sister looked like someone had informed her oxygen now required a subscription fee. Naturally, she began searching for someone to blame. First the county. Then the accounting firm. Then previous property managers. Then the real estate agent. At one point she somehow blamed nearby construction projects. The logic behind that accusation remains a mystery. My girlfriend quietly whispered into my ear. Humans are fascinating. Why? In my culture, when someone creates a problem, they usually blame the person who created the problem. I nearly laughed. The timing couldn't have been worse. Or better. Because later that same week, I received a county letter of my own. After witnessing my sister's meltdown, opening county mail felt like handling a live explosive device. I sat at the kitchen table staring at the envelope. My girlfriend sat across from me eating lunch. You look nervous. I've developed trust issues with government paperwork. She nodded sympathetically. Reasonable. I opened the letter. Then blinked. Then read it again. Then a third time. My girlfriend watched silently. Good news or bad news? I honestly can't tell. The letter confirmed approval for multiple renovation incentives and tax credits. The energy-efficient improvements qualified. The restoration projects qualified. Several county programs qualified. Months of careful documentation had finally paid off. Instead of owing money, I was receiving substantial savings. I stared at the numbers. Then started laughing. Not polite laughter. Not dignified laughter. The kind of laughter that arrives when the universe tells a joke too perfect to ignore. My girlfriend grabbed the letter. A few seconds later she started laughing too. The contrast was unbelievable. My sister owned one of the largest homes in the county, and had just received a devastating tax bill. I owned one of the smallest homes in the area and had just been rewarded for improving it responsibly. News traveled through the family quickly. Within days everyone knew. Relatives who once praised my sister's financial genius suddenly became much quieter. My parents stopped mentioning the mansion quite as often. My sister stopped posting luxury photos online. The change was almost supernatural. For years, the mansion had been presented as proof of success. Now it looked more like an extremely expensive problem. And for the first time in my life, nobody was laughing at my little fixer-upper anymore. The following months felt like watching the universe balance its books. My sister's life changed almost overnight. The mansion that had once been the center of every family conversation became a source of constant stress. Expensive upgrades stopped immediately. Luxury deliveries disappeared. Weekend parties vanished. The social media posts that once appeared daily became increasingly rare. Apparently it was difficult to show off when every spare dollar was being redirected toward a mountain of property taxes. My parents struggled with the adjustment. For years they had treated my sister's mansion as proof that she was the most successful person in the family. Now they found themselves discussing payment plans, financial restructuring, and budget cuts instead of imported chandeliers. The contrast was almost comical. Meanwhile, life at my little fixer-upper continued improving. The renovation credits reduced my expenses significantly. The upgrades increased the property's value. Neighbors frequently stopped by to compliment the transformation. The place barely resembled the rundown house I had purchased years earlier. One evening, while sitting on the newly restored porch, I looked around the property and felt an enormous sense of satisfaction. Every fence board, every repaired wall, every painted room, every improvement represented hours of effort and patience. Nothing had been handed to me. I had built it piece by piece. My girlfriend sat beside me, enjoying the sunset. "You seem happy," she said. "I am. You should be." She leaned against my shoulder. "In my culture, mates are evaluated by their ability to create stability." I smiled. "That's romantic." "It is considered extremely romantic." A few months later she officially moved in. The event was surprisingly simple. No giant ceremony. No extravagant announcements. Just two people deciding they wanted to build a future together. For some reason, that felt far more meaningful than any luxury mansion party ever could. Together we finished the final renovation projects. The backyard became our favorite accomplishment. We built a comfortable patio area, added lighting, and created a space where friends could gather. When everything was complete, we hosted a small celebration. Nothing extravagant. Just family, neighbors, friends, good food, and laughter. Ironically, people seemed to enjoy themselves far more than they ever had at my sister's enormous parties. Nobody was trying to impress anyone. Nobody was competing. Everyone was simply having a good time. Even my parents seemed different. At one point my father walked through the house quietly examining the finished work. Finally he nodded. "You did a good job." Coming from him, that was practically a standing ovation. My mother admitted she had underestimated the property. Then came the moment nobody expected. My sister approached me while everyone was gathered outside. For a few seconds she looked uncomfortable. That alone was unusual. Then she sighed. "I owe you an apology." Several nearby relatives nearly dropped their drinks. I wasn't sure I'd heard correctly. She laughed awkwardly. "Don't make that face." "What face?" "The shocked one." "I've never seen you apologize before." "Fair." For the first time in years, there was no arrogance in her voice. No bragging. No superiority. Just honesty. "I thought the mansion proved I was smarter than everyone else." I nodded. It kind of became your whole personality. A few people laughed. Even she laughed. Then she glanced around at the finished property. You built something real. The compliment caught me off guard. My girlfriend smiled knowingly. Later that evening, as guests prepared to leave, another county envelope arrived in the mailbox. The timing was so perfect it almost felt scripted. Everyone froze. My sister looked horrified. My parents looked nervous. I stared at the envelope. Nope. What? My father asked. I'm not opening that. The entire family burst out laughing. My girlfriend eventually grabbed the envelope and opened it herself. A few seconds later she started smiling. Good news. I cautiously took the letter. Then I laughed. Another rebate. Another approved incentive. Apparently one of our recent energy efficiency upgrades qualified for additional savings. The backyard erupted into laughter. Even my sister joined in. As the sun disappeared below the horizon, I looked around at the people gathered in the yard, the home I had rebuilt with my own hands, and the woman who had chosen to share that life with me. The funny thing was that I had never wanted the biggest house. I had never wanted to impress anyone. I simply wanted a place worth calling home. In the end, the mansion that everyone admired became a burden, while the little fixer-upper everyone mocked became the foundation of a happy life. And that turned out to be worth far more than marble floors, luxury parties, or the approval of people who measured success by square footage.